For God's sake, Mrs. Robinson. Here we are. You got me into your house. You give me a drink. You put on music. Now you start opening up your personal life to me and tell me your husband won't be home for hours.
So?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film, we explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I am a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, actor, and host of numerous shows here in Los Angeles, and I'm crazy excited to talk about this particular film today.
Me too. It just really hit me really hard. The film is The Graduate, 1967. It's our second Mike Nichols film.
Yeah.
We talked about Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf already.
Right.
And, you know, I've seen this film a lot.
Okay.
But watching it this time, I don't know.
Yeah.
It has had a much stronger effect on me than it had in the past.
Oh,
it's a great movie. How'd you first come to it?
I think I came to it maybe 4 or 5 years ago for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not one of these ones that necessarily jumped out at me. And I've been a huge Dustin Hoffman fan for a long time, obviously. But like every once in a while, I'll go through these runs on TCM where I'll just like scan through the next 3 weeks of movies. And I'll be like, oh, have I seen any of these movies? Oh, these are classics that I haven't seen yet. And The Graduate was one of these about 5 years ago. And I have in total only seen the film 3 or 4 times.
Oh, wow.
To be honest with you, yeah. And this is probably the 4th time I've seen it all the way through. I've seen scenes, you know, I knew the iconic scenes, the ending stuff, but I hadn't really but this time around, for whatever reason, I absolutely loved the film, because the first time I saw it, I was like, I don't see what the big deal is. Like, I don't see how it's, but there's something about this time that hit me on a number of levels, and it may just be where I'm at in my life as an older person now. Like, there's a lot here to explore and uncover.
It did for me too, but I'd seen it. I saw it in high school probably the first time.
Wow.
And saw it, you know, every few years. I'd seen it a lot. And when I was in film school, it was definitely a film that you talk about in film school. And I'd seen it a lot then. And it was always one of those films that I admired and I liked, but it wasn't one of my favorites. Right. And I had the same experience. I was watching it with my wife a couple of days ago and found it so funny.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, oh my God. And it took, I don't know why it took me to get to, you know, Mrs. Robinson's age or older before I started to go appreciate it, but it really did. It affected me so much differently.
Well, I think that's what's great about films, man. This is the great ones. They speak to you at whenever they're supposed to speak to you, and the people who love it at a certain time in their lives love it for that reason. And then when you discover it again later on, it's because something else is going on inside you. It's the great thing about film.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. So let's get into it.
Sure.
It's based on the book by Charles Webb, which I just read.
Figured
I picked it up on Audible. It was 6 hours long. I listen to books usually at 2.5 times speed, so it only took me a couple hours to get through.
It's because you're a fucking genius.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you.
I couldn't listen to anything at 2.5 times speed. I get irritated.
I think it just takes practice.
I guess so. I can't even handle those chat apps, those Snapchat apps where they're talking high pitched. So I can't handle it.
You young people and your apps. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Shut up, go ahead.
So what surprised me about the book, that I just have to say, my expectation, because I knew a lot about the making of the film, was that this was going to be one of those books where it was going to be really, really different from the movie. Yeah. It's not.
Oh, okay.
The movie is so much based on the book, and even down to the dialogue.
Wow.
Like a lot of the lines, because I watched the movie and then listened to the book the next day, a lot of the lines are just the same.
Interesting.
It really surprised me. The big difference is the book's not that funny. In my opinion.
Right.
You know, and so all that, because, you know, this is a story that you could take in a very sad way.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're not
serious
way
too. Yeah, definitely.
So Lawrence Turman's the producer, and he buys it, and he does something that he's never done and always recommends that you should never do, which he actually used his own money.
Cool.
He is a big fan of OPM, which is other people's money.
Of course.
And that's how Hollywood works. I haven't learned that lesson very well. But that you should never use your own money. And he wants Mike Nichols to direct it.
Right.
And by the way, if you want to know about Mike Nichols, go back and listen to our Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf episode. We go into a lot of detail about him.
Yeah.
The one thing we didn't mention, and I cannot believe we did not mention this in that podcast, is that he is an EGOT.
Oh, yes.
And it's our third EGOT that we've discussed on the Cine-Files. The other ones being Rita Moreno and Mel Brooks.
Right.
And this is, if you don't know what an EGOT is, go look it up. An EGOT is really cool.
Yes.
So Mike Nichols was supposed to direct this before Virginia Woolf.
Yes.
And then got Virginia Woolf came along, put this on hold, and while he's working on Virginia Woolf, Calder Willingham is hired to write the screenplay, and Terman reads the screenplay. I don't think Nichols even read that screenplay and said, this is not what it is. Nichols brings in his buddy Buck Henry, who's a great comedy writer, creator of Get Smart, and just one of the and for the classic Saturday Night Live hosts, he gets hit in the head with a sword from John Belushi in Samurai, whatever it was.
Yes.
Buck Henry comes in and writes it. And just one thing that's real interesting about screenplays and how screenplays work, Nichols never even looked at Calder Willingham's screenplay. It's not used in the movie at all.
Wow.
But Willingham goes to the WGA and says, I deserve credit on this movie. And what happens, and this happens all the time because there's multiple writers on scripts, is the WGA looks at all the scripts and then they make a determination.
Right.
And they determine that he deserves half screenplay credit.
Right.
So even though he didn't write anything that ended up in the movie, he gets half screenplay writing credit.
Gotcha.
Because the WGA decided that.
Right.
And part of that is because it's based on a book. And as I discovered, a lot of the dialogue's in the book. So of course his screenplay is very similar.
Yes.
So Mike Nichols comes on, and now we got to cast our lead role, Benjamin Braddock, who in the book is tall, blonde, blue-eyed, godlike. So naturally, we're going to cast Dustin Hoffman.
Is he really in the book?
Yeah.
I don't even know how that freaking works.
It's a wasp family.
Yeah, it's true.
It's full, like that is what it is. It is the California blonde wasp.
Yes.
And so who the first person they go to
Robert Redford?
Robert Redford.
Yeah, of course.
Who Mike Nichols directed in his first big hit on Broadway, which is Barefoot in the Park.
Right.
So they're buddies. And here's why Redford doesn't get cast. So Nichols, they're really in talks about doing it, and Redford has become a star. He's not the huge star he's about to be,
right?
But he's definitely a star. And Nichols just finally goes up to him and says, "You know what? Bob, I can't see you playing this part." And he goes, "Why?" And he's like, "I just can't see you playing a loser."
Yeah.
And Redford, being an actor, goes, "I could play a loser." and this is how Nichols, he asked him, he said, "Have you ever not scored with a girl? Like, have you ever gotten turned down by a girl?" And Redford's response is, "What do you mean?"
Does that happen to men?
I don't understand.
I can't hear you in my bubble. I can't hear you.
I don't understand the words you're saying. And so they go out and they look at all these people.
Yeah.
And both Buck Henry and Nichols had seen Dustin Hoffman in this off-Broadway play, which I think is called Harry Noonan Night, in which he played a German transvestite. And there was like 3 or 4 other things that this character was. And it was this big sensation, big off-Broadway sensation. Right. And they go, maybe this is the guy. And they fly him out for a screen test.
Yeah.
And he is freaking out during this screen test. He's sweaty. He's nervous. He's stumbling. And the screen test he has, you can see it. It's with Catherine Ross.
Nice.
And at the end of the screen test, which he feels just went terrible, he kind of is doing something with his pockets, and a whole bunch of subway tokens fall out of his pockets on the ground. The prop guy picks them up and hands it to him and says, "Better take these. You're going to need them." And Dustin Hoffman is certain there's no way he gets the part.
Yeah.
Nichols watches the footage, and something happens. And what he says is that Nichols thought he was actually good in the screen on the day.
Right.
But he said he was 25 to 50% better on film.
Right.
And the only other person he's ever seen this happen with is Elizabeth Taylor.
Oh, wow.
Is that the camera just loves him. And I've seen this too. There are some actors, like literally, I'll be looking at them in life and then look at them on the monitor and then at life and then at the monitor.
Right.
And it's like 2 entirely different things.
Yeah.
They're just actors that the camera loves.
I'm terrible in both versions.
It's not true. It is not true. I've seen you in both versions. It is not true, sir.
Shut your mouth.
He's such a good actor.
So this is great. So he just from that whole screen test, he gets
the part.
He gets the part, and because everything else probably already happened at the end too, with the fumbling tokens, he got a window into who Dustin Hoffman actually is. Right, that sequence probably too. Yeah,
yeah.
How interesting.
Well, and it ended up the prop guy who had handed him those tokens at the end of the shoot, because he worked on the film, gave him a framed bunch of subway tokens.
That's great.
Isn't that awesome? So Hoffman's done this screen test.
Yes.
He's sure he's not going to get it.
Right.
And this other director also saw him in Harry Noonan Night playing this transvestite German.
Okay.
And said, this is the perfect guy to play the part of the playwright in my next movie, The Producers. Mel Brooks cast him in the Kenneth Mars character to play the Nazi playwright. And then he gets offered The Graduate, and he has to decide between The Producers and The Graduate.
Well,
obviously, he makes the correct choice.
You always take the lead, man.
Yeah, of course. And of course, who is he acting with in a love scenes with but Mel Brooks' wife, Anne Bancroft.
Anne Bancroft.
So every day, Anne Bancroft's coming home from the set, and Mel's going, "How was it making out with that guy that turned down my job?"
That's fantastic.
And we have to give credit to the great Lynn Stallmaster, who is the casting director, and because Dustin Hoffman. This is a radical shift in what a leading man can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so completely different. That this very Jewish, very ethnic, not tall, not nebbish guy could be a leading man.
Yeah.
It's an amazing. It's like a complete sea change in the way Hollywood works and brings in the new Hollywood.
Right.
Absolutely. Without a question.
I think this happens every few decades, though. We saw that with Keanu Reeves kind of becoming a lead, too. Keanu Reeves is an attractive guy, but at the time, it was all like Bruce Willis. It was all these guys. It was, or Schwarzenegger, rather, Rambo, all these guys. It was more these bigger, like, huskier guys. And then Bruce Willis and Keanu Reeves, these kind of thinner dudes, kind of everyman kind of vibe, kind of slid into these action films. So it happens in the genres every once in a while. And like Mickey Rooney, no one was thinking Mickey Rooney was this amazing, beautiful guy, but he made it work back in the 30s and 40s for leads in films. And so it's just interesting how this kind of goes in and out, these movements in acting, you know?
Well, the thing we have to remember is that Hollywood is fundamentally conservative.
Yes.
Is that they go, this is what works, and they are reluctant to change.
Because they want to make that money.
And every once in a while, that change comes along. And really, that's the theme of this movie, I think, because this movie, 1967, I think this movie more than any other is like the signpost of when Hollywood changes.
Yes. Well, the society changes.
Yeah.
It's a sea change all over. All over. Yeah.
Yeah, in all sorts of ways. Mm-hmm. So they go into rehearsal. They do like 4 or 5 weeks of rehearsal on this thing. And one of the actors that is in rehearsal is one of Dustin Hoffman's two best friends. His two best friends are Robert Duvall and Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman is originally cast to play Mr. Robinson.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And they're 3 weeks into rehearsal.
That's to let you know how old his energy has always been.
I know, right? Because he's buddies with Dustin Hoffman.
He's the same age.
Who's like 29, 30.
Yeah.
Too old to play Benjamin, but looks sort of young.
Right.
And Nichols fires him.
Well, of course.
And Hackman kind of knew he was about to get fired. And of course, it's the best thing for him because getting fired on that allowed him to take Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
And that's really the movie where Gene Hackman gets noticed.
Right.
And I can't imagine him as Mr. Robinson.
No, not at all.
I love Gene Hackman. We talked about him in French Connection.
Yeah, of course.
Not for Mr. Robinson.
But Murray Hamilton is perfect.
He's perfect.
He's so good.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get in the movie.
Yes, let's do it.
We start on an airplane.
Yes.
And right from the beginning, this doesn't look like any other movie.
I made notes, man. This movie is so powerful for me. All right, go ahead. Yes, got it. Yes.
Do you have a note that you want to...
Yes, because the opening is... I love the opening dialogue of the pilot. Mm-hmm. We are on our descent.
Yes.
This lets you know that this man... It's not descending of the plane. It's this man's descent into like the darkness of his life, of what his waspish life is going to be now post college, right?
Right.
And we're going to be led into this world and see like the feeling of going underwater, descent. All of it is just a massive theme throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we catch him on this moving sidewalk.
Yes. In
this great shot, and we already see him disconnected.
Yeah.
Like we already see him sort of floating in this world where he doesn't belong.
Floating, very good.
And then there's this moment where we see him on the moving sidewalk.
Yeah.
And then we see his luggage on the moving sidewalk.
Right.
Or on the conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And this is a thing that Nichols said, which I find really interesting. He said, I put the theme of the movie right at the front.
Yep.
He as an object. And what he said, which I love, is, of course, nobody noticed that as the theme of the movie. And that's what you want.
Right.
You should have your theme. And you should know what it is, and everybody should be so involved in the story that they're not trying to pick apart your theme. Yeah, you watch it 5 times, you do.
Yes.
Like, for instance, the use of water and glass and transparent surfaces. He always wanted those things, these separations, these clear separations between you and the character.
Right.
And that also relates to the theme, and also you don't, unless you're picking apart the film as we are,
right,
you don't notice it. Hopefully.
Exactly.
If your theme is right up front, your movie's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben goes home. we go right into this very lovely party that his family has thrown for him.
If you say lovely, I guess.
It is a lovely party.
All right.
What's not lovely about it?
The way it's shot.
Yes.
Everything in close-up. You're constantly, like, he feels like he's constantly being attacked by these people, and they're all uncomfortably physically close to his face, which is really unsettling. But to me, it occurred to me that this still happens, I'm sure, in the rich, waspish type community, that this kind of like uncomfortable violation of physical spaces happens because they're not used to being told no in life, so they just go and do things that violate the rules. And I was just like, this is amazing to let you into this feeling like he's a zoo animal, like he's in the aquarium himself. He's a fish in the aquarium himself.
Yeah.
People are pointing at and coming up close to his glass and watching him.
Hey, there's the award-winning scholar.
We're all very proud of you, Ben.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlson.
Is that the new car out there, that little red wop job?
That's Ben's graduation.
Well, you won't have much trouble picking him up in that, will you?
Sir.
The girls, the chicks, the teeny boppers.
Oh, I think Ben's gotten beyond the teeny bopper stage, haven't you, Ben?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me, I think I'd just like to check something on the car for a minute.
His father bought him an Alfa Romeo.
Well, and this is funny. Like, it's funny you say this still happens because I realized watching this time, it's like, this is kind of my life in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not waspy because I grew up, it was all Jewish.
Right.
But I grew up in a, fairly upper middle class to affluent family. My parents had a big group of friends.
Right.
All their friends were doctors and lawyers and businessmen and stockbrokers and dentists.
Right.
And we had these big events. And the thing I realized watching it, because I know how Benjamin feels, which is that the not gossip, but there was what we called the Jewish grapevine, which was that if something happened with, my friend, Rachel Silberstein or Stacey Jaffe or any of these people, everybody knew about it instantly.
Right.
And so you would come to this party and every one of these people, in a very loving and well-meaning way, would ask you how that thing was.
Well, I think most of us who are artists, or most of us who have a sensitive bent, have had this experience, because I had this experience, and I didn't come from affluence, but a Latino family, extended Latino family, is very much wants to know what's going on. Look, my son's doing this, my son's doing that, and then the uncles and aunts come up, and they're just like, hey, I heard you're doing, tell us more about this. Here's like, this is the last thing I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even want to be here. I'm coming only because my family says I have to go, and I couldn't stay at the house.
Well, and as I got into like my mid-20s, and I would go up, and they would hear like, oh, Steve, we heard you had this meeting at Sony. Oh, Steve, we hear you're working on this screenplay. Oh, Steve, we hear how's that going? And even to the point where they said, I'd have someone come up who regularly would say, we're still waiting for you to win us that Oscar. When are you going to win that Oscar? And I felt all of this totally well-intentioned and really loving, supportive thing became like torture. Yeah. It was so painful that I stopped telling my mom what I was doing.
Yes.
I didn't want to share, and I didn't want to talk about it. And it was like, you can't say to someone who loves and admires, wants the best for you, shut the fuck up. Stop saying nice things to me. You're hurting me.
Right.
But that's how it felt.
Yep.
And so watching Ben this time, it was something interesting I learned about the filmmaking, because I watch it and go, man, how did they have the balls to just shoot that shot of Ben and not do coverage?
Oh,
not cut away, because they're the weird, someone walks in front of him.
Right.
You have all these sort of dirty overs, which means that half of Ben's face is cut off or all of it. And it's like, how did you not shoot the whole party? Well, the answer is they did shoot the whole party. They did tons of coverage.
Wow.
And then in editing, they just said, no, we're just going to stick on Ben's face the whole time.
It's perfect.
And it is amazing.
He's our protagonist.
Yeah.
We have to feel his sense of isolation amidst all these people.
Yeah, absolutely right. We get a quick glimpse of Mrs. Robinson.
Real quick.
In one shot.
Yes.
And then Ben finally...
draped over the couch, smoking a cigarette, like a hunter like a lion in the grass, waiting for its prey.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because you notice one of the choices they made in costume, she's always in animal skin.
Yes.
She's always in leopards and fur. She is this hunter. She's
the huntress.
She's a predator. So Ben goes up to his room, wants to get away and be alone, and who walks in but Mrs. Robinson, apparently looking for the bathroom.
Right.
This scene is amazing.
Yeah. It's a fantastic back and forth between both of them.
And to me, you really see the rehearsal.
Okay.
Because all the little physical bits, the cigarette, dropping that, the ash which he cleans up off the bed, him dealing with the cigarette in the garbage can, the keys, all those things. Yeah. Those you don't just figure out on the set, I don't think. You need some time to figure that stuff out.
Yeah. And also what's going on in the scene, which I think is fantastic, is, and you get a window into these, now, as an older man, you get a window into this situation. When a woman wants something, she will put herself out there. When a strong woman wants something, she will put herself out there.
When a man wants something, will he put himself out there?
Well, a man does, it's just what he does. A man is stupid and clumsy. a woman can be quite interesting in how she does it.
I think this describes both men and women. I think.
You want to do this game? Okay, we can do this game. So let's do this game. Men are used to going after what they want. Women are trained, or women are taught from the beginnings at times, like you can't ask for what you want overtly, right? Because it's a patriarchal society. So men rebel against this idea of a strong woman, right? But a strong woman, when she wants something, will go get it. Sure. And I think in this scene you see this happening here with her, because she steps up and she is trying to put herself she's saying, and not so subtly, but she's putting it out there like, I want to be with you. I'm letting you know I'm attracted to you. Her throwing the keys in the aquarium is brilliant, because a woman can get really offended when she puts herself out there and you reject her. And I've seen this happen, and I think it's fantastic. It's such a fantastic scene for that, because it shows the dynamic of both of them, right? He's a young man still learning, about to experience a sexual awakening. This is a woman who's had her sexual awakening, and she's very much in control in the situation.
Well, and what's so fascinating about her is, like, if this is any other circumstance, you're totally right. She is 100% putting herself out there. Yes. The woman says, drive me home. Well, that's it. But in this circumstance, it is inconceivable to Benjamin that she could be doing this. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
You know, if one of my parents' friends said, drive me home, it would never have occurred to me.
Right, of course.
What that is, even though her actions, as you say, is perfectly right. And then it's what's really hard about this movie is there's so many little moments that I want to mention that it would take us forever. But we get to the car and opening the door of the car and how she gets him to come inside.
She's seducing him the whole time.
And forcing her. And her... Yes. And I cannot say enough about Anne Bancroft's performance.
Yeah, she's so good in this.
It is so flat, and filled with all of this stuff. And it's funny. Nichols says an interesting story about it, which is that they do the first read through and first start of rehearsal, and Anne Bancroft comes up and says, "So what do you think? What do you think of my character so far?" And Nichols says, "Honestly, I don't like it." Nichols is not. He doesn't seem to mince words. And she goes, "Yeah, and why?" She goes, "Why?" And he says, "Well, she's too sweet." And she says, "Okay, well, what is it you want me to do?" And he said, "You know what? I can't describe it to you. I can only do it. Can I give you a line reading?"
Yeah.
And she goes, "Yeah, sure." Which, by the way, a lot of actors would be offended.
Right.
But it's Mike Nichols. And and so he does this line a certain way. And she says, and he does it very flat, whatever it is. And she says, "Oh, I know what that is. That's anger."
Yes.
And he goes, yeah. And she goes, "I got it." Yep. And from that point forward, she had that part. And you can feel it, is that she wants Benjamin, but the way that she wants him and the way that she carries herself, and it is very unsettling.
May I ask you a question? What do you think of me?
What do you mean?
You've known me nearly all your life. You must have formed some opinion of me.
Well, I always thought that you were a very nice person.
Did you know I was an alcoholic?
What?
Did you know that?
Look, I think I should be going.
Sit down, Benjamin.
Mrs. Robinson, if you don't mind my saying so, this conversation is getting a little strange. Now, I'm sure that Mr. Robinson will be here any minute now.
No.
What?
My husband will be back quite late. He should be gone for several hours.
Oh, my God.
Pardon?
Oh, no, Mrs. Robinson, oh, no.
What's wrong?
Mrs. Robinson, you didn't expect...
What?
You didn't really think I'd do something like that.
Like what?
What do you think?
Well, I don't know.
For God's sake, Mrs. Robinson. Here we are. You got me into your house. You give me a drink. You put on music. Now you start opening up your personal life to me and tell me your husband won't be home for hours.
So?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Mrs. Robinson's laugh at that moment, I think it's the only time you ever see her laugh or even smile, maybe.
Yeah.
And then his embarrassment. "Oh, I made a mistake. I've said the worst possible thing," which... I don't know who is the best actor at playing discomfort.
Right.
But I can't think of a better one than Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate.
He's so good in this.
I mean...
It's so not what you usually see him play. that it was fun to watch.
I mean, his nervousness and you could see him trying to do the right thing, whatever that right thing is. Right. And the slow realization of, oh my God, she is trying to seduce me. And I love the moment, we're looking, she's got her legs. I love the line of, you've opened up your personal life to me when her legs are slightly spread apart, and then Benjamin come up to Elaine's room to look at the portrait. And here's something I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Why in Elaine's room? Why does she want to seduce him?
Because she's jealous of Elaine. She's jealous of Elaine. Elaine is going to be able to have the life that she couldn't have, which we find out later because she got impregnated by Murray Hamilton's care, by Mr. Robinson.
Right.
And so she got shotgunned essentially into this marriage. But she's jealous of Elaine. That's why she doesn't want Ben to touch Elaine, because she defiles Ben so that Ben is not with Elaine and tries to destroy anything that's... She's not a good person. Mrs. Robinson is not a good person at all.
No.
And to me, the only victim in this entire movie is Catherine Ross. It is not Ben.
No.
Ben willfully goes into this seduction. He does not have to bring that purse up. He does not have to put it on the ground. Like, he could have left that situation, but he senses in a primal way as a man that he is being seduced by this powerful woman, and he acquiesces. Does he do these like kind of, I don't know, I should get out of here? Yes, but she pushes it, and I think she wants to do it in the room because she wants to get back at Elaine in some psychological way. I think that's my belief.
I agree, and here's how I kind of frame it, because I was thinking about this a lot.
Yeah,
is I can have sympathy for someone who things happen to as a young person, and I can have sympathy for you.
Sure.
As you move into adulthood, while I maintain my sympathy, as you start to act in the world as an adult, then that sympathy doesn't actually give you any credit.
No, right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like Ben, as a very young man who's in this situation, like, okay, you're confused, and I feel why these things are happening. As soon as he starts to act on Elaine, then it's like, now you're being a bad person.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where it's, and Mrs. Robinson, I can feel for her.
Yes, absolutely.
Because she's obviously a very, very unhappy person.
Yeah.
But her actions, and particularly it's like the craziness of wanting to seduce a young man in your daughter's bedroom.
Haven't you ever seen anybody in a slip before?
Yes, I have, but I just... Look, what if Mr. Robinson walked in right now?
What if he did?
Well, it would look pretty funny, wouldn't it?
Don't you think he trusts us together?
Of course he does, but he might get the wrong idea. Anyone might.
I don't see why. I'm twice as old as you are. How could anyone think that?
But they would, don't you see?
Benjamin, I am not trying to seduce you.
I know that, but please, Mrs. Robinson, this is difficult.
Would you like me to seduce you?
What?
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm going home now. I apologize for what I said. I hope you can forget it, but I'm going home right now.
She's using him. It's very palpable. You're right. Her anger. It's her rebellion against her situation. And we'll get to the end, right?
And even against herself.
Yeah, even against her. Right, exactly. And we'll get to the end when Catherine Ross says to her, like, it's not too late for me.
Yeah.
And that to me is a huge callback to this moment where Anne Bancroft's character, or Mrs. Robinson, is seducing Ben.
Yeah.
And you make a great point, Steve, because and to admit something, I have had on occasion relationships with married women, and there is a lot of sympathy to go around in those situations for a number of reasons. And so those kinds of things are where they're at. And it's a great way to, for me, it's kind of a way to understand this desire to rebel, this desire to reclaim some sense of humanity and remove the victimhood of your humanity because you feel like this situation was foisted upon you sometimes. And so to me, it's a whole new way to look at this film that I had not, like you, the first time I saw the film, I found the seduction situation like uncomfortable.
It is,
but this
which
time,
it is.
I guess so, but yeah, it is, I guess, at some level this time around, but it was more enjoyable and fun and playful and all that. I love this whole opening seduction. I think it's fun, it's playful, it's sexy.
Well, that was the thing. Watching it this time, I was laughing the whole time.
It's enjoyable in that way.
I don't think I laughed when I was young. I didn't think I found it as funny as I found it this time.
Right.
I don't know why. She gets Ben to bring that purse back upstairs.
Yes.
He's almost out.
Yeah.
Brings the purse at the top of the stairs. Well, I'll bring it over here.
Right.
Finally into Elaine's room. And now we have some magnificent editing.
Yes.
Which is you see Mrs. Robinson's naked form go by in reflection.
Yes.
She slams the door. You have a triple cut of Ben turning his head where we repeat action, which is very daring. You know, this is like out of French New Wave. And then we have Ben's embarrassment and these fast cuts of body parts of Mrs. Robinson.
Bancroft.
And this is, and it's just really important to point out, I think, that Nicholas's last movie is Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is a film stage play.
Yeah.
And he really, and although there's beautiful filmmaking there, there's nothing like this in there. This is completely different.
No, you're right.
And even, things we've seen with these long lens shots and these long, all that kind of stuff, that does not exist in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
No.
And for this guy who obviously has this great directing actor's chops to come out and now show these filmmaking chops is amazing.
Yeah. Some people just have the gift, man.
And Mrs. Robbins says, I want you to know I'm available for you.
Yeah.
Ben runs out. He goes back home.
No, he runs out downstairs because Murray comes home. Mr. Robinson comes home.
You're absolutely right.
That's right.
He runs downstairs because we hear the car, which also, did Mrs. Robinson know he was going to come home?
I think she did. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
She is in control in this whole situation. Like, he shows up. The husband shows up while she's naked in Catherine's room, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And so it's just nuts to me, like this whole thing that she's doing. But she's pushing the boundaries because she wants to rebel. We all have this desire within us to get away with something. It never leaves us, even as that stealing that cookie out of the cookie jar when mom isn't looking. That never ends for us as we get older. There are certain moments where we enjoy kind of getting away with something.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a moment for her as she's rebelling to kind of pushing the boundaries and the limits. She wants to cause a reaction here. I don't think she's as malevolent here as she becomes later on in the film, but I think here it's more a matter of like pushing back against this cage, her own aquarium that she's in. So
Well, and I think she's toying with blowing everything up.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think she's made the decision I'm going to blow everything up.
Right.
But she's going like, well, if I do this, there's a possibility everything could blow up.
Yeah, and who cares if Ben is caught in the crossfire?
Yeah, or
that's
anybody.
Unfortunate.
Anybody.
Yeah.
So Maury Hamilton comes home.
Great.
And he's great in this movie. He's so good. Mm-hmm. And you feel really bad for this guy.
The whole film. I guess you could say he's a victim in a way, but maybe yes or maybe no. We'll see.
Well, we don't know what their relationship. We don't know inside that.
We only see
world.
her angle on it. But he is one of my favorite voices on film. One of my favorite voices. Whenever he shows up in Jaws, obviously, and when he shows up in here, he just has this kind of like gravelly, kind of higher pitched gravelly, which is a really rare voice to find. Is a high pitched gravelly voice, and he does a great job. I just love his voice.
And what advice does he give to Ben? Time to sow some wild oats.
Right.
Go, relax, sleep with some women, fool around. And as he's saying this, the background of the shot, descends Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah. Fully dressed.
When
she had said she didn't want to put her dress back on again.
Yeah.
There she is with the dress back on again.
I mean, it's just...
fixing a dress.
Just great. One little thing is that there's this little whimper Dustin Hoffman makes. Little... apparently, that's a noise Mike Nichols makes. That's where that came from.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So right after this, we go right into Ben's fantastic birthday present.
Yes.
Which is scuba gear.
Oh, my gosh.
This scene is so uncomfortable. And difficult.
Yeah.
And again, this is like, as an introvert, the parents announcing that you have to go out and perform in your scuba gear. It's just so painful.
Right.
And the use of subjective sound, that once we're inside that mask, we're in the... It's like Darth Vader, honking out. And it's so... And even the parents pushing him down under the water. Till he's finally isolated, alone under the water,
right?
And just going. And I know he didn't come up. Like, he was like, I'm just going to stay here as long as I possibly can
until the air runs out,
away from these people.
But it's also symbolic, right? Because he is scuba. What people do, scuba dive, is to explore the depths of the ocean, to explore, what's down there. So in a way, it's symbolic that his parents got him that, because he is exploring the depths of his own stuff, his own misery, his own sadness, his own sexuality. He's all of that. So it's very symbolic in that way. And I love that the shot of through the mask. I love that, because you feel, like you said, Steve, the isolation and the noise, but it's that feeling of like you can't see the peripheral stuff. So there's a symbolism in that as well, right? You can't see left or right, so you don't know what's coming.
Well, and they are literally dressing him up.
Yeah.
In an outfit of like, here, be this.
Yes.
And so it's so symbolic for the film. And so I have a huge digression that I want to make.
Okay.
And maybe we'll cut this out of the podcast,
sure.
and maybe we won't.
Knock yourself out.
But I kept thinking, as I was watching this film and thinking about the film, about this book called Generations, which is by Neil Howe and William Strauss.
Okay.
Which is a big book where it's like a 900-page book where they created a theory that in America, there are archetypal generations that have repeated themselves over and over again.
Yeah,
that there's essentially 4 generation types.
Okay.
And what the book does is go from like 1500 until the mid 90s and track each generation and shows how they represent each of these archetypal types.
Okay.
And there are basically 2 dominant ones, and then they alternate with 2 sort of less powerful ones.
Okay.
And the dominant ones are a practical generation and an idealist generation. And that the way the theory works is that the practical generation grows up in the time of some big practical upheaval, like a war or a famine or a depression, and that they come to power and care about building things, practical things. And the idealist generation comes of age in a spiritual upheaval. And that they care about ideas.
Yeah.
So an example from the Revolutionary War is that Ben Franklin is from the practical generation. Okay, and he's building things. He's about compromise. He's about making things work. George Washington is from the middle generation. That's the less powerful generation. And then the idealist generation is Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton, John Adams, Madison, like all these guys, and they have the big ideas.
Right.
Okay, so in this movie, Ben's parents are the GI generation. They grew up in the Depression, came of age in World War II. They are a practical generation.
Yeah.
They care about building things. They care about accumulating wealth. And part of the idea is that they grew up in the Depression, where the time they had nothing. They were scared. And so what they want to create for their children is a space in which they don't have to experience those things. And you see the parents doing this. They're like, we're giving you education and money and time and opportunities, that we had a nice car, all the things we didn't have. And because of that, they're creating the space for the child to question the ideals of the parent. And that Ben is part of the baby boom generation. And the baby boom generation are the idealists who come of age during the great spiritual upheaval, which is the 60s, where everyone is questioning the ideals of the previous generation. And this movie so perfectly sums up these 2 generations and why they can't figure each other out. You know, because the parents are like, we've done all this great stuff. Look at this. Look at everything we built. And Ben's going, what does this mean? What is its point? And just one last thing, and then I'll end my digression, which is just to show the power of these 2 dominant generations, is that John Kennedy is the first of the GI generation to be president. That generation holds the presidency for the next 32 years.
Wow.
All of them, from Kennedy to George H.W. Bush in 92, all served in World War II. They're all the GI Joe. They're all the GI generation. The silent generation, which is the generation that comes after them, has no presidents. The generation that finally beats the GI generation is the baby boomers. That's Bill Clinton. That's George W. Bush. That's also Donald Trump. They're all baby boomers. Barack Obama, he's one of us. He's Generation X. So Generation X is the middle generation.
That's right.
So anyway, it does the theory hold up? Is it perfect? No. It's got a lot of flaws to it, but it is interesting, and this movie sums it up.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that.
So we got Ben, he's sitting on the bottom of the pool, and now we have this technique they use over and over in the film, which is to pre-lap audio. Which is while he's sitting on the pool, we're hearing the audio of the next scene, which is Ben calling Mrs. Robinson from a payphone. Can you imagine how much time you've been thinking about this before you make this call?
Well, I remember being that young, and I remember having those kind of thoughts in your head to figure it out if you're going to call somebody or not. So yeah, I'm sure it's a little while.
Yeah. It's a long time, and that is a big phone call to make.
But it's also his his action moment, right? This film doesn't happen if he doesn't call her.
Absolutely.
What happens in the film doesn't happen if he doesn't call her. Right? Because he has rejected her advances, but she's not going to push it because he has rejected her. But when he calls, everything begins.
I can't imagine. I wonder what happens to Ben in the universe in which he didn't make that call.
I think Ben eventually acquiesces to his parents, gets into a loveless marriage, and does what he's supposed to do, and he's just frustrated for the rest of his life. That's my belief. Which doesn't mean he still doesn't end up like that at the end of the film. But it certainly feels like he would have been in a loveless marriage for different reasons.
I don't know. Because maybe he's not just completely destroyed by his Mrs. Robinson's relationship, and he gets through his moment of, I don't know.
That's a good question to ask.
I don't know.
We'll talk about it later, I think.
Yeah. So he's going to go into the Taft Hotel.
Yes.
First thing he sees is a bunch of old people coming out. And this is like the details of this movie. They're all so good. Buck Henry pops up. And by the way, the reason that Buck Henry has that part is because Gene Hackman was fired.
Oh.
Because Murray Hamilton maybe was going to play Benjamin's dad.
Okay.
And the actor playing Benjamin's dad was going to play the hotel clerk.
Gotcha.
They moved Murray Hamilton to Mr. Robinson. Hotel clerk becomes, which is, I forget his name, but he becomes Benjamin's dad.
Right.
And
William Daniels.
William Daniels, thank you. Another great actor.
Yes.
And then suddenly there's a part for Buck Henry, who's hilarious as this clerk. He's so good.
There's a line in this scene that I want to talk about. I wrote, are you here for an affair? The single man party, the singleman party. I mean, it's so symbolic. It's so great the way it's written. Are you here for an affair? Which, of course, he is. And then the singleman party, which he is a single man.
Oh,
it's
I didn't even think about single men.
Yeah, of course.
That
it's
is
perfect.
hilarious.
It's all set up. The thing Nichols does throughout this whole movie is he sets up what the scene's going to be about before the scene even fucking starts. It's brilliant. And he gets away with it because it's so well written and it's so well acted that it just slides underneath you. It's so well done, man.
Amazing. And finally, Mrs. Robin shows up. Ben's in a bar.
Yep.
We see her first come in reflection, and then we have this amazing dialogue of, "Did you get a room? Do you want me to get a room? Should I get a room?"
Did you get us a room?
What?
Have you gotten us a room yet?
I haven't, no.
Do you want to?
Well, I don't. I mean, I could. Or we could just talk.
You want me to get it?
Oh, no, I'll get it.
Do you want to get it now?
Now?
Yes.
Well, I don't know.
Why don't you get it?
Why don't I get it? Well, I will then, if you'll excuse me.
Well, it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's a woman who has lived her life. The woman understands how this goes. And he is a stumbling fool who does not understand how to seduce a woman in any way, shape, or form. And it's just a great their scenes are some of my favorite parts of the movie.
Oh,
man.
they're great.
Yeah.
He goes to get a room, and we have just again with Buck Henry the most awkward, embarrassing, like going to write on the card and then putting the card in his pocket because he's got to change his name. They ask about luggage. Yes, I have luggage. Oh, we'll get your luggage. No, I don't. And even the little gag with the bell.
Yes.
The gag with the bell is perfect comedy.
Of course it is.
And you have to remember, Mike Nichols comes from Nichols and Mays, one of the great comedy teams of all time. So we go up to he goes up to the hotel room. Mrs. Robinson comes into the hotel room.
Yes.
And again, it's so wonderfully awkward.
Yes.
What do you want me to do? You know, I love like she goes, well, why don't I undress? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Why don't you watch?
So perfect.
And then there is a moment which is so amazing.
Yeah.
Which is Benjamin comes around behind her and puts his hand on her breast.
Yes. It's so awkward.
So this is how it happened.
Oh.
So Nichols is asking because Dustin Hoffman is a method guy, which means you talk about your own experience, your own life, your own history. And so Nichols is talking to him. He says, well, what's the first time you ever, made out with a girl? And he said, oh, it was junior high. And he tells this whole story.
Yeah.
And he tells this story about he put his hand on her breast. And he was so excited to do that. And she didn't respond. And he said, okay, why don't you do that to Annie? And didn't tell her.
Oh.
So, which I have a problem with,
right.
I can't have a problem with the scene and how it turned out because it's amazing. So, and I'm not, and this is what happened. So he walks up behind her, he does this thing, and this is a sign of an amazing actress.
Yeah.
Her response, without missing a beat, is to see some little spot on her clothes and start trying to, scrape off the little spot. It is so indifferent and to come up with that in the moment while the camera's rolling. And Dustin Hoffman is he thought it was so funny he starts to break.
Right.
So what does he do? He walks to the side of the room and bangs his head against the wall.
Yeah.
That again is improv.
Oh, wow.
That just came up in the moment.
That's great.
And Nichols goes, yes, we're keeping that. Like that is an amazing film moment.
I remember thinking how out of step that was, him banging his head on the wall, but it makes perfect sense for where his character is in that moment. And I love that, but because Anne Bancroft, I'm sure, has had those uncomfortable moments with men before. So she knows exactly how to just completely diffuse them, and it was a perfect improv moment from her own life, in her own method way. Probably. Yeah. Women deal with this all the time, man.
One other little gag we didn't talk about is which is, again, so perfect comedy, is she takes a drag of the cigarette, he kisses her, long kiss, he stops kissing her, exhale.
There's nothing sexy about their seduction at all. No. She's sexy, but there's nothing sexy about it, which is perfect because he has to be completely unaware. And by the way, what do you think about her wearing green? To me, this is interesting that she wears green because it implies Snake being Garden of Eden, deflowering of Ben, taking Ben's apple, basically Ben eating the apple and being deflowered and seeing himself like it's awakening.
Never occurred to me, but that's a great point.
Well, with the animal prints, it just makes sense to me. It made sense to me.
Totally great point.
So yeah, all right.
Yeah, really good point. And then there's this moment where it's about to not happen, and she says she suddenly asks him if he's a virgin.
Yeah.
First of all,
yes, great.
First of all, do you think he's a virgin?
Yes. Absolutely.
I've kind of gone back and forth about it.
Oh, I think he is.
He's certainly, yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure he's played doctor,
Yeah.
but he's never had sex.
Okay. That's the first thing. And then what she does to him, just because you're inadequate in one way.
Wait a minute.
On your first time?
Who said it was my first time? Wait a minute.
Inadequate? I mean, just because you happen to be inadequate in one way.
Inadequate?
That is so horrible and manipulative.
This is the beginning of the change in her, is that line.
Well, I don't know if it's a change in her, but maybe a change in our feelings about her.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, her motives start to change in this moment.
Yeah, that is so horrible. And this brings up another question I have.
Yeah.
How long has she been planning this?
Oh, I think she knew before he came back from school.
So she's
had her eye on him for a while.
Was he in high school when she started thinking about this?
Maybe, or even, maybe some random trip from college back. All of a sudden, he's kind of come into his manhood, and she finds him strangely attractive. I mean, it's like Murray Hamilton is this amazingly good-looking dude either. So she has her type, and I think she sees in him that she can get away with what she wants to do, and she can control the situation because she has not felt in control in her life, probably her entire life.
Right.
Ever since she's had Elaine, she has not had control of her life. She has been her mother or his wife. And that's the thing. And so in this situation, she finds the right guy that she can reclaim some sense of control in her life.
It's so interesting you say that, because I think you're exactly right. And this idea of control.
Yeah.
And you think of this woman, it's like she's wealthy.
Yes.
She sleeps in her own bedroom.
Yes.
She does whatever the hell she wants every day.
Right.
She describes her day as like, I get up, I go shopping.
Yeah.
It's like she has, from what a lot of people would think, has way more control over her life than someone who doesn't have money, who's you know struggling, working. They don't, and yet her feeling, which is exactly what you said, is she has no control over her life.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to ask is, has she done this before?
No, I don't think she has.
She ever had an affair before?
Nothing about this radiates her. Nothing about what she does radiates to me as this is a seasoned practice that she's been doing. I bet she might have had a stolen kiss with a tennis pro or somebody, or maybe with one of the husbands. But I don't think she's ever like fully done this, because she's been as much as she's hated the idea that she's in a life where she feels no control over. She also didn't want to risk her life, and she's doing this when Elaine is not there, and Elaine has been there the whole time until she went to college. Right? So, or no, she's about to go to Berkeley or whatever, right? So she hasn't been, so this, I think she's finding the opportunity to do this, and this is the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. And of course we can't know.
It's a midlife crisis, isn't it? I feel like it's a midlife crisis.
She's so confident. Part of me goes like, oh, she's done this before.
Well, she's confident because women become confident as they get older. Like, they change from the 20s to 30s to 40s. And I love experiencing this. I've dated women in the 20s. When I was in 20s, I'm doing 30s, 40s. Like, women come into their power in their 30s. My experience, majority of women come into their power in their 30s. And they really come into their power in their 40s. Like, there's just a sense of understanding how the world works. When you're in your 20s, you're not as aware, and they're more emotionally capable than us as men. That's been proven on numerous studies. So you can't touch me on that. But like women just mature faster than men. Women are able to handle situations. And we see stats now coming out that women are graduating at higher rates than men are. Women are achieving jobs in the market and becoming executives quicker than men are. There are books being written about this now currently, and men are feeling the pressure, which is why you have those stupid men's groups that have been created to kind of supposedly fight back against this idea of feminism, which is bullshit. But what you're seeing here, and I love that it's 1967. You're seeing a woman of this kind of power. We saw this with Betty Davis in the 40s and 50s, but you see it once again with Anne Bancroft here. She's really powerful throughout this whole movie.
Absolutely, no question about it. So after she calls Ben inadequate...
I mean, just because you happen to be inadequate in one way...
Inadequate?
Well, I guess that's...
Don't move.
But we have this moment where we see Ben silhouetted on the light. We see Miss Robinson's face very quickly, and then he slams the door. And it is almost a scary moment.
Yes.
Like if this had been a different movie, this is like an attack moment.
If that's a man and that's a young girl, that's almost rape.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how their sex is. That first sex is like framed as something we don't get to see it.
No.
Something fairly intense.
Yeah.
And then we go into one of the most remarkable montages in film history.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So many jump cuts. and like match cuts going on, like, you know, I think that's, I mean, I hope I'm using the terms correctly, when he jumps on top of the inflatable tube, like jumping on top of Mrs. Robinson.
There's an argument to made that that's the greatest cut in film history.
Ooh.
That cut,
I wouldn't disagree,
is so, and describe a little bit of what's happening, is that he's at his home in the pool and doing stuff at his house, and then he'll get up and walk, and as he'll move into a new place, he's moving into the hotel room with Mrs. Robinson.
Right.
And then he's lying on the bed with Mrs. Robinson. She moves out of the way, and he gets out of his bed in his house. And there's this sense, his dad comes and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm just drifting."
Yeah.
And that's how that whole montage feels.
Yep.
And the cut that we're talking about is he jumps into the water, he's swimming underwater, he comes out of the water onto the raft, and he comes onto the raft onto Mrs. Robinson.
Right.
And it is a cut, like you could back it up and go back and forth over it and watch, and you can't see it.
Right.
Even though it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
It's so, it is both invisible and visible at the same time.
Exactly. And it's, again, symbolic as well, because the only way out of the depths of being underwater in his life are the moments that he has with Mrs. Robinson. These are the moments where he doesn't feel like he doesn't know what he's doing, like he doesn't know, he's not drifting. I think with her, he feels a sense of danger and fun and breaking away from the standard status quo of his life. And so him jumping out of the water is him like, it's so symbolic for me when he has sex with her.
It's funny because I don't feel that way at all.
Really?
Yeah, I feel totally differently. I mean, is that for me, is that they're so linked together. I definitely think he feels danger with her.
Right.
I don't think he feels fun with her. I think it's all empty.
No, okay, that's a fair point. Maybe not fun, but the danger. Oh, well, that's the way I look at things. Dangerous is fun to me. So sorry, I'm sorry, but Ben.
No, but that's a perfectly reasonable interpretation.
Sure, but Ben jumping out of the water, to me, when he lands on top of her, that to me is him kind of. Those are the moments that he can climb out of this feeling of being underwater.
I think he feels something.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Like
right.
That's what's so. Because to me, watching this movie now, it's like, oh, Ben is deeply, if not clinically, depressed.
Right, but he's also rebelling against this whole idea, and I think being with her is his rebellion.
But his rebellion isn't giving him any pleasure.
No, it's a meandering rebellion.
That's what's so is that in another director's hands, Mrs. Robinson would be titillating.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That it would be exciting.
Yes.
That is not how this feels.
No.
There's nothing. It's so empty. It's so devoid of any passion.
Yeah.
And this montage is so beautifully constructed.
Yeah.
And not fulfilling.
Nope.
You know, and the other thing we have to talk about in this montage that we've been hearing throughout the film is Simon and Garfunkel.
Right. I was wondering when we were going to get to that. Yes. So
this montage has two songs, which is really unusual to have two songs back to back. Has Sound of Silence and April Come She Will.
Yeah.
April come she will.
How do you feel about Simon and Garfunkel?
I fucking love Simon and Garfunkel, and I bought like their collected works.
I have it too.
Back in the 90s when it was a 3 CD or 4 CD collection.
I have that. Yep.
Yeah, and I didn't know a lot of their music till I bought that, and I was blown away by how many songs I love that have never charted on the charts, never been released as singles, that are fantastic. And I think they wrote all this music before
Almost
the
all
movie.
of it, yeah.
They didn't
Almost
write all
all
of
of
it for the movie, right? I think Mrs. Robinson was obviously written for the movie. I think most of everything else was written already and recorded already.
Yep.
And used perfectly in the film.
Well, so this is like my music. This is the music I grew up with.
Yeah.
I listened, like, for me, I'm an old school guy, like Beatles, Simon and Garfunkel.
Absolutely.
Like that's the
our
stuff
generation,
I listen
man,
to. I listen to it
going into that
over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And the way this happened was Nichols is working on the movies in pre-production, and someone had handed him so he had never heard it before, handed him some Simon and Garfunkel albums, and he was listening to them while he was working. And there's one morning he woke up, he's listening to Sound of Silence, and he just goes, "Oh, this is my movie."
Yeah.
Calls up Paul Simon, and they make a deal. And this is something that had never been done before, which is to use existing, already recorded pop songs as the entire soundtrack for a film. They've never done it before. And he did have Paul Simon in the studio playing guitar, and they did, as you say, Mrs. Robinson is created. It was actually a song that they were working with for their next album.
Oh, how funny.
Called Mrs. Roosevelt. And they just took out Roosevelt and put in Robinson.
That's great.
And what Joe DiMaggio has to do with it, we have no idea.
Yeah.
It makes more sense with Mrs. Roosevelt than it does with Mrs. Robinson, because it's all these kind of images of Americana.
Exactly. And
the music is just, and apparently with this montage, they had cut the montage, and they just put the music on it, and it just worked.
Yep.
And, with very, very little adjustment. And this is, I can now use, finally, my absolute all-time favorite film school highfalutin word.
Oh, shit.
Which is psychoacoustic coincidence.
Okay.
Let me say that again so I don't stumble. I can now use my favorite film school big word.
I like that you stumbled.
Okay.
It's perfect moment for you to stumble.
It'll now stay in.
Just about to what you're about to say. No, you do 2 takes. Go ahead.
It's psychoacoustic coincidence.
Oh.
And what this is where you put a piece of music on some film and it just works.
Yeah.
The most classic example is playing Dark Side of the Moon while watching Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
That is psychoacoustic coincidence.
That's fantastic.
And it's a magical thing in the editing room where you just put some music on and suddenly things take on weight and meaning and substance and they sync up in all these perfect ways. You're like, it is like God handed me this piece of music.
Right.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So the montage ends with Ben looking up into the silhouetted face of his dad.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling me then what those 4 years of college were for? What was the point of all that hard work?
You got me.
Soon to be joined by the Robinsons.
Yes.
Say hello to Mrs. Robinson, Benjamin.
Hello, Mrs. Robinson.
Hello, Benjamin.
Yeah. It's
all
an amazing
in soft
moment.
focus, all in the, in the sun.
Oh, and one thing I thought about, Karen actually brought this up while we were watching.
Yeah.
Ben's look in this movie with the sunglasses and the cigarette, did it make you think of Tom Cruise in Risky Business?
I can see that, but it didn't.
Yeah, totally. Both Karen and I had that same response.
Because he's so not Tom Cruise, it didn't occur to me.
And now we hear the first mention of, Elaine's coming back soon.
Right.
You should see Elaine. And then Ben's getting ready. He's shaving, and in comes Mom. He has this conversation with Mom. What are you doing, Ben? Where do you go at night?
Right.
Ben doesn't answer.
Well, he does.
Oh, he does.
He doesn't give her a straight answer,
Yeah,
but he says, I go driving.
I go driving.
Yeah. Until noon.
Yeah.
And then she walks out. By the way, I'm more attracted to Ben's mom than I am to Mrs. Robinson. I found that actress more attractive to me than Anne Bancroft. And I found that an interesting thing this time around. I kind of want Ben's mom.
It's an entirely different movie.
Yes, exactly.
So now we're back in the hotel room.
Yeah.
And Ben wants to have a conversation with Mrs. Robinson.
Right. So interesting.
Why don't we talk? And from this, you can feel just the complete emptiness of this relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it is totally devoid of anything.
And she purposely wants it that way.
Yeah.
She does not want to connect with him.
No.
And because then her sin becomes too real.
Yeah.
While he's some kind of person she can control and she can keep from talking, so she doesn't have to actually get to know him as a person. She cannot feel the guilt of hurting him. She cannot feel the guilt of destroying him. Right? Something they say about with hostage situations, like when you're talking on camera, when you're trying to negotiate with the hostage through the camera or through the hostage taker, you want to speak about the person's name over and over again. Humanize them so that they understand they're not taking an object, they're taking a human being.
So this is the opposite.
Yeah, well, she kind of has him trapped, but yes.
Well, and she's sort of like, I will allow you to objectify me.
Yes.
And in exchange, I will objectify you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you're both getting something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they're getting ends up being so sad.
Right, but it's up to you to decide what that is.
We have this conversation, and this is amazing screenwriting. Conversation starts with, what do you want to talk about? Oh, art.
Art? That's a good subject. You started off.
You started off. I don't know anything about it.
Well, what do you want to know about it? Are you interested more in modern art or in classical art?
Neither.
You're not interested in art?
No.
Then why do you want to talk about it?
I don't.
And then we go on this journey and we talk about Elaine and we've discovered that, they got married because she got pregnant.
Yeah.
And Ben's delight that Elaine got conceived in a Ford is huge. And finally, we get back to, you were in college. What did you study in college?
Benjamin, why are you asking me all these questions?
Because I'm interested, Mrs. Robinson. Now, what was your major subject at college?
Art.
Art? But I thought you... I guess you kind of lost interest in it over the years, then.
Kind of.
And Anne Bancroft's face.
Yeah.
And the sadness and the loss and the... my sense, I don't know what yours is that she loved art.
Yep.
And that love was destroyed. And she, to the point where she can't love art now.
Nope.
Yeah.
Which is why she doesn't want to talk about it with Ben, because she doesn't want to share herself with Ben in that way. Not in that way.
Yeah.
That's a romantic way. She doesn't want to do that.
Well, and even with herself.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't want to open up that
Great point,
whole,
Steve.
you know, like,
absolutely.
It's so painful, this moment. And in this moment also, we get her grabbing Ben's hair.
But then,
and saying, "You will never take out Elaine."
That's the moment. See, this is what's so great about these two moments back to back, Steve. Is it's the last time I personally feel sympathy for Mrs. Robinson in that movie is when she has that look on her face about art. And then the second she turns the next switch to grab Ben by his hair and tell him we won't go, that's when she goes on this, she goes into the villain tract. She becomes Maleficent in my mind.
Wow.
She does, because as we'll see it later, like she accuses him of rape. That's fucked up. And she, in order to save her own fucked up situation, she lies about it. She destroys him, and she almost destroys him.
Well, and maybe she does.
And maybe she does,
because
exactly.
we don't get to know.
Exactly.
And one thing, by the way, that hair pull apparently was so painful that it really hurt Dustin Hoffman, and he was furious.
Well, fuck him for grabbing her boob.
Well, I
that's
guess
an exchange to me.
This seems like a fair point.
That seems like an exchange
also,
to me.
when Elaine slapped him, she ruptured his eardrum.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So Dustin Hoffman took some licks.
Well, this was method acting back then. That's what they did.
What you signed up for?
Let's drop it.
We're not dropping it. I'm good enough for you, but I'm not good enough to associate with your daughter. That's it, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yes.
You go to hell. You go straight to hell, Mrs. Robinson. Do you think I'm proud of myself? Do you think I'm proud of this?
I wouldn't know.
Well, I am not.
You're not.
No, sir. I'm not proud that I spend my time with a broken-down alcoholic.
I see.
And if you think I come here for any reason besides pure boredom, then you're all wrong.
So now we just said, don't you dare date Elaine.
Yeah.
What do his parents want him to do? Date Elaine.
Yes.
And they put the screws on him.
They really do.
And it's sort of, he feels he has no choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now he comes over to take Elaine out.
Once again, he's a victim through a whole movie of everything else around him because he cannot stand his ground for what he wants because he doesn't even fucking know what he wants.
Yeah. Well, this is where I feel a real affinity for Ben in the beginning.
Up to this point.
And now I'm sort of going, dude, you actually have control of, you have everything.
Yes.
You have wealth, you have education, you have privilege. Your parents are actually being really nice to you.
Yeah.
They're saying, hey, take some time.
Right.
And when he's just sitting and drinking all day and out all night, they're tiptoeing around him.
Yeah.
You know, and going, oh, no, it's okay.
Right.
They don't want to, I mean.
Oh, he's a whiny little bitch.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like the film is fantastic and the humor is great. It's a fun film, but he's a whiny little bitch through the whole film because he can be, because he comes from privilege. I came from poverty. You don't get to lie around a fucking house.
Right.
You go get a job. You want to get a car. You go get a job. You want to buy clothes. You go get a job. You want to do these things. You don't get to lie around the fucking house and have existential crisis. Fuck off. Go work. And this is the thing about these rich movies sometimes. For me, it's tough to watch because I'm less like, but this film is so well done that it transcends that shit. And he does a great job with bringing Ben to life because you can see his struggle with his own trying to figure out where he belongs in the world. And he's mirroring what's happening to that whole generation in the 60s already because we're coming out of the flower power movement and we're coming into the reality of the late 60s, which was Vietnam, which was the destruction of the flower power movement, disillusionment, bombings by these hippies that had been all about peace and love were all of a sudden constructing bombs and trying to blow things up. So it's a change.
Well, and this is really, it's the beginning of the flood because this is Summer of Love.
Yes.
67. And
it's the last gasp.
Yeah. And this is why I brought up that whole thing about generations is that the generation before created the space for to become an idealist because someone doesn't, like, for instance, if you look at revolutions around the world, the person almost always leading the revolution is a rich kid.
Yes.
Lenin,
Castro.
Yeah, is that you don't, because if you're just desperate to survive, you don't have the time to sit back and think.
Nope.
And think about what's wrong with society and then lead the revolution.
Right.
Now, whether or not you like these people who led the revolution is beside the point.
Sure.
Is that Jefferson needed the time to sit and think. He wasn't struggling to survive.
Right.
You know, he was a rich kid, and that is what gets you the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly.
It's also what gets you a guy that sleeps with his slaves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like is so.
True.
And Ben is definitely okay. You got some space, and what did you do with it?
Right.
You fucked this older woman, and then you just trashed everything. And now he's off to go on a date with Elaine. And the shot of Mrs. Robinson sitting as he's taking, I made it very clear.
Yeah.
You feel it now, like the anger is now on fire, even though she's still flat.
Right.
But man, it is so profound. And I don't know what the best date ever on film is, but this is not it.
No, this is
so
date.
terrible.
Yeah.
What he does.
It's the worst date ever.
Driving fast. He's walking away from her.
Right.
She's struggling to keep up. And then the strip club. Wow.
Yeah.
It is so humiliating and horrible and cruel. I don't understand how, because this is where I go, man, what's up with Elaine? That she likes this guy.
Well, because she probably had that kind of treatment in her house, that kind of feeling of like
wanting to please the unpleasable person.
Exactly.
You know?
A lot of women have a lot of men and women have this situation within them from their own relationship, from their own parents, like instilled in them. This idea of trying to please the unpleasable.
Well, the people pleaser, a lot of children of alcoholics, which she's an alcoholic.
Yes.
Of like when you have the dragon in the house, how do you please this person?
Right.
And so Ben. He knows he's gone too far, and then he has this moment of sympathy chases after, and now we have part 2 of the date.
Yeah.
Where they actually talk and they share. And
it's because she's crying. When she cries, he breaks. The better part of Ben shows up, and he realizes what he's done, because through her tears, he sees himself. He can't do what she's doing. He can't cry. He can't lament and cry for his own fucking shitty situation. So when he chases her down, he's really like, that's what he says. This is not me. This is, I don't know. This is blah, blah. And then they connect on talking about how they feel like their parents want them to do all these kinds of things that they don't want to do, right? Which is universal. This is universal at that age for most people. And so it's a great scene. And when he tries to get him to turn down the music, they just put the hood on and go out the windows, and they have a great connection. And they're really beautiful. And when he takes her home, he says, I want to see you tomorrow. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. And in this scene, he articulates very much what is going to be the 60s generation, which he says this thing of,
it's like I've been playing some kind of game, but the rules don't make any sense to me. They're being made up by all the wrong people. No. I mean, no one makes them up. They seem to have made themselves up.
There we go. Or no one makes them up, which I think is a great button on that.
And that's the 60s, man.
Yeah.
That's the hippies. That's that's all these movements to try to tear down the society's rules articulated in this one line from this character. And it's not surprising that this movie connects with this entire new generation. And we go back to the house, and she's like, why don't you come into the house? No, I don't think that's such a good idea. Let's go get a drink or something. And she says, oh, why don't we go to the Taft Hotel?
Oh, so great.
Like, why don't you just say, let's go somewhere else?
Yeah, right. Why does he go?
Right. Of course, the reason he goes is because it's going to be really funny when everyone says, hello, Mr. Gladstone. And then he reveals to her, finally, I'm having this affair with this older woman.
Yeah. Or I had this affair with this
this affair. It's over now. She has a husband and a son.
And
but he wants to see her again. Ben. I mean,
and it's really beautiful when he drops her off.
It is.
Right?
It's
sweet.
And you know what? This is where my lack of romance comes in.
Ooh, interesting.
Which is that you can't see her again. Don't see her again.
What?
You had an affair with her mom.
Yeah.
She is off limits. There is no way that this can work out in any way.
Sure.
And I know they're young people in love. This is like when we had the West Side Story conversation. And I understand what the movie is. And I understand what the character motivations are. But this is where I turn on Ben.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, because I look at this and like, there's no way this is going to work out.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But of course he does. He wants to take her out.
I love that it's raining.
Which, by the way, it isn't. It's bright, sunny day that day, and there's a lot of shots. You could kind of tell if you look at it. They're like literally just shooting a hose in the foreground, and the background's like beautiful.
Right.
Mr. Robinson gets in the car.
Oh my god!
And by the way, you should say Anne Bancroft's like 33.
Yeah.
She's like just a few years older than Ben.
Yeah.
And in this scene, you can really see it. I think.
Yes, because the gray hair isn't as prevalent.
Yeah, and she's just the wet face.
She's wet face. Yeah.
And she says, if you try to pursue her, I'm going to tell her everything.
Right.
Does she mean it?
I don't think she means it yet.
I think it's an empty threat. I don't think she's going to do it at all.
At this point, it's an empty threat. I think if he had kept going, she might have eventually done it.
Well, because I don't think she's had total control over this guy.
Right.
And so I don't think it even occurs to her. Yeah. And so what Ben does is...
to try to control the situation.
Is he runs up to Elaine, who's getting dressed. She's smiling. Oh, what are you doing here? Ha, ha,
ha.
Elaine.
What are you doing?
Elaine, I have to tell you something.
What is it?
That woman.
What?
That woman, that older woman that I told you about.
You mean that one?
Yes, the married woman. That wasn't just some woman.
What are you telling me? Benjamin, will you just tell me what this is all about?
And the shot of Mrs. Robinson framed in that doorway.
Yeah.
And the slow rack focus back to Elaine.
She's so good, Steve. As this is my
Catherine Ross.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is my favorite acting moment that she's ever done in anything ever. It's
I agree.
So
I totally agree.
And complex. Like there's levels deep.
I mean, the moment seeing the discovery on her face. I mean, can you imagine? You have this person who's your age, you're now finding out had an affair with your parent, like the shock of it.
Well, also because you glimpse the possibility of a romance with this man, the possibility of getting out of this situation, this terrible situation with her parents. Because I'm sure she sensed their like her lack of love for her dad. You know, she sensed her mom's lack of love for her dad. I'm sure she sensed that. So there's this window of a fantasy of a possibility, and it's ripped away in the most ugliest way possible. To have your mom.
Well, and if I hadn't turned on Ben before, I did now.
Really?
Well, because this is horrible. What he does to her in this moment, this is as cruel. It's like you had one date with someone. Yeah. It's like, hey, let me destroy your entire sense of your life. Right. Let me rip your family completely apart.
That's a good point.
I mean, it is so horrible.
It's a selfish desire for his own happiness.
Absolutely.
That's a good point, Steve.
It is so. I mean. And yes, I understand the motivation.
Sure, of course.
I'm not turning on the movie.
No.
But I am turning on Ben.
That's fair.
And the next shot, as great as that shot is, the next shot is amazing, which is the slow zoom back from Mrs. Robinson's face to Ben.
Yeah.
And her isolated and cold and alone and small at the end of this hallway.
It gave me a remembrance of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the German, because it almost feels like the hallway is tilted.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes it sense that, because that's feeling when something really emotional happens for you, you kind of don't see the world in the squares that anymore. Everything is kind of off kilter, and that moment is completely conveyed. Her emotional moment is completely conveyed from the way it's shot.
And as much as Mrs. Robinson is a horrible person, as you said, I feel bad for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I feel really bad for her.
The shot of the sadness in her face through the doorway first, and then when he steps out and sees her against the wall, it's even more painful. Yeah.
It is, and it's you know what? It's the thing we talked about before of Mrs. Robinson toying with the idea of blowing it all up.
Right.
Now it's all blown up. Yeah. And here she is in this moment.
Mm-hmm. How much control do you have now?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Yeah. And then Ben's sort of back in his depression.
Yeah.
And then he comes up with this really great idea.
Not really great idea at all.
I'm going to marry Elaine Robinson.
Stupid, fantastical, idealistic, spoiled idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ridiculous, destructive. And you had one date.
Yeah.
Your life has been completely fraught in this depressed, crazy event, and now you've just reached out like a drowning man and said, this is what's going to work. This was what's going to save me.
She's going to save me. Yeah,
She's going to save me.
Exactly, Steve. Yeah.
So he goes up to Berkeley.
Yeah.
Again, we have beautiful Simon & Garfunkel music.
Well, I don't want to jump over a quick moment. The moment he has with his parents.
Oh, you're right. We got to talk about that.
That's such a great moment because that lets you know right there. Once again, that's another window into the difference between the two generations. Yeah. His dad's like, "Did you tell the parents? Did you tell the parents? Did you blah blah blah?" And they're all excited at first,
of course,
and then they slowly deconstruct the fact that it's one of his flights of fancy again. They're like, "Oh my god, this kid."
Yeah, and this is where Ben needs to get slapped.
Yeah,
he needs to get
disciplined
kicked in the ass.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand his parents because they had a kid who it seems like did everything right until he was 20.
Right.
Overachiever, disciplined, hardworking.
Right.
And so they're not used to they don't have the skills to deal with the kid who's suddenly doing everything wrong.
Right, which is a great point, Steve, because a lot of the people who were involved with Manson were these head of the cheerleader squad, top of their class. You go and do research on the Manson family, and a lot of them are these high-end achieving people. Yeah.
Yeah. So Ben drives up to Berkeley.
Yes.
Strangely enough, he drives the wrong way on the Bay Bridge.
You nerd. You fucking nerd.
You talk to anyone in San Francisco, they know this because the Bay Bridge is double decker, and if you drove towards Berkeley, you're inside.
Right.
So he's on the top deck going to San Francisco.
Okay.
It's still a beautiful shot. He doesn't actually go to Berkeley for a bunch of that stuff because this is my school. And then he does go to Berkeley, and it really is full. I mean, I'm sure, when you see movies that are from where you came from. I mean, if they make movies there, I don't know.
No, they don't. Other than The Purge.
You would notice. Yeah. Oh, The Purge is made there?
Dale City is one of the cities in The Purge. There we go.
And then Ben, you're like, what's this guy's plan?
Yeah.
And he is essentially a stalker.
A stalker. Yes, that occurred to me too.
Yep.
How romantic it is in the old movies to see the stalking. Now that because you have that idea, that you can go and get what you want. Movies can be really corruptive in that way, man.
Yeah.
They make you believe that you can do this kind of stuff.
Well, and
it's
our
not true.
sense, it's like there's part of you that's like, oh, this is romantic.
Yeah,
he's in love with her.
Yeah.
He sat and wrote Elaine, which
Right.
apparently is something Buck Henry did, and he's pining after her. And one thing we should say, by the way, Catherine Ross is among the most beautiful women ever on film.
Absolutely.
I mean, and so there is something romantic about it.
Yes.
And there's something pretty creepy about it.
Right.
He gets his own apartment that Norman Fell is nice enough to.
Mr. Roper, yeah.
Mr. Roper is running the place. And slowly but surely, he kind of stalks her and then accidentally on purpose runs into her on this bus.
Oh. Runs after the bus.
Yeah. Funny seeing you here.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I'm going to the zoo. I think I'll go too.
Right.
I'm going to meet some guy.
But why does she let him? Why does she let him, do you think?
Because she's fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, he takes her on the world's most terrible date.
Yeah.
Apologizes, and then she has this lovely date. And that's what's going to happen for the rest of the film. Is everything tells her get the fuck away from this guy, and yet she can't. And it's so like. It's watching a slow motion train wreck on some level.
Kind of, yeah, I guess so. Then they meet the white waspish guys that probably could have been Ben Braddock in the original writing.
With the pipe and
it's so great.
Yeah,
the tweed jacket,
and it's funny too because that is the San Francisco Zoo.
Yeah.
I know that zoo. I know Monkey Island. That's where I grew up going to. Even though I'm younger than Ben, but still that is so familiar. And when they're in Berkeley and there's Moe's books and those are so familiar things to me. Yeah. And then Ben continues to pursue her, and seduce her, and I want to marry you.
Right. Well, she shows up at his place.
That's
an active moment.
Yeah.
She now participates in his stalking.
Yeah. Oh, and this is, by the way, something you brought up before. This moment of the scream. This is when we find out that Mrs. Robinson accused him of rape.
Right.
How could you do that, Benjamin? Do you just hate everything? How could you possibly rape my mother?
What?
I don't understand. I
Did
don't
you say
understand
rape her?
how anyone could do a
What
thing
did she
like
say?
that.
You got to tell me what she said.
Why?
Because it isn't true. Tell me.
She said that she was having a drink at the hotel with a friend and that you waited for her in the parking lot and told her that she was too drunk to drive home and that you would get her a room for the night.
Well, then what?
Then you took her upstairs and you raped her.
Oh, no. That's not what happened. What happened was that there was this party at my parents'. I drove your mother home.
I don't want to hear this.
We went upstairs to see your portrait.
No,
and when we
I
got
don't.
up in the room, she started
This is
taking
my
her
mother,
clothes off,
Benjamin.
and suddenly there she was without any clothes on. I mean, really naked.
This is really an uncomfortable thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's terrible. It's a terrible thing that she's done. And this is 1967.
Yeah.
Right? She accuses him of rape.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Rape is a very, very serious accusation, man. On both sides.
As of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a thing that happens.
Yes.
And
sometimes.
And this is also a thing where women who have been raped are not believed.
Yes.
And that is definitely a thing that happens.
Right.
And and what's strange in this film is they kind of roll over it.
Yes.
Because
her scream is a way of saying she accepts that.
Yeah.
Ben's
He says I didn't do it, and she basically accepts it.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is she does know her mom.
Yes.
And she does know Ben a little bit.
Right.
And Mom's story didn't make a lot of sense.
The hardest thing you are ever going to do, it's really hard to kind of rip the cover off what a person has kind of deluded themselves into believing about their relationships, either with their parents or with their friends, male or female. It's one of the hardest situations. And I, at times, have been able to see certain things in people's lives. And I've had that reaction where a person screams, no! And then when they calm down, they see everything. And you're just like, man, it's really hard. It's really hard to see that, And so I got that scream. I understood that scream.
Well, because her choices at that moment are to believe that this guy she knew all her life raped her mom.
Yeah.
Or to believe her mom is this horrible person who seduced this guy she's known all her life. And those are two
and
horrible
then accuse
choices.
Him of rape. Yeah.
And then accuse him of rape. Yeah. So that scream is, it makes a lot of sense.
Of course.
And you're right. The process, look, we all walk around with a lot of shit.
Yeah, of course.
And there's shit that never gets told, And then sometimes with some people, under some circumstances, you have this moment where you can share that truth. And one thing we can say about Benjamin and Elaine is he does share that truth.
Yeah.
Whatever else is wrong with their relationship, and I think there's a lot, he does share it.
Yeah.
And up runs Norman Fell, and up runs Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss, which is so great.
There's one line in here. Should I get the cops?
Should I get the cops?
And at the end, there seems like he says, "I want you to marry me." And there seems like she might.
She says she might.
Which again is like so crazy. Yeah. You know, that you're not looking very many steps in advance, which I understand. You know, that is sort of what it is.
Well, I had a girlfriend tell me one time she married her guy because he wouldn't take no for an aunt. Like, he made these grand gestures and chased her and went after her and wouldn't take no. And then she eventually like saw how much he really cared about her and gave in. And so maybe in some way, this is kind of Elaine's kind of fucked up way of seeing love, that this guy was willing to sacrifice all these kinds of things.
I think so.
And break all these codes. I'm not advocating what he does in this film, but she may see these grand gestures as a symbol of love.
But Elaine is in this same generation of rejecting the values of the middle class, you know, rules in life. And Ben is certainly a symbol of that. Yeah. You know, because she then comes back to his room in the middle of the night and he's in the sheets, and I think he's sleeping naked. And when you come back, she's saying, "I am interested." Yeah, you know, there's no question about that. Yeah. We have to talk about Robert Surtees, which is the cinematographer. Okay, amazing, and this is like an old school cinematographer. Haskell
Wexler,
yeah, who did Virginia Woolf, was gonna do this movie and just was like, "I hate this script," and he dropped out. So they get Surtees, and Surtees was good to go. They expected him to be very traditional, and every weird experimental thing that Nichols wanted to do, he said, "Great, let's do it." Wow. And one of them is, after the Scream, he wanted long lenses on Hoffman and Catherine Ross. Well, they're in this little tiny room, and normally the lenses sort of match the size of the room. In order to have a long lens and someone in focus, you have to be like 50, 60 feet away to use that lens. So what they did was they pulled the walls. They're on a set. They pulled the walls off of the side of the set, and they went all the way across the soundstage and shot it from like 100 feet away.
Holy shit.
Using these long lenses, which doesn't make any sense in terms of traditional cinema, but looks beautiful, because what long lenses do, they tend to flatten you and they throw everything else out of focus. And you could see the use of long lenses throughout this film. And Surtees is like, that's good to go. One other person we should mention is Sam Osteen, who's the editor. Met on Virginia Woolf. And became Nichols' main editor for the next 20, 30 years. Wow. He also edited Chinatown and Frantic. This is one of the great editors. And he was on the set all the time. A lot of editors don't want to be on the set. Nichols wanted him on the set. He was involved in every step of the way. Really, really important, particularly when we're talking about the montage, things like that. So then Ben's next visit in the middle of the night, while he's just gotten a ring for Elaine and he really believes that they're going to get married. Who's here but Mr. Robinson? And that scene is so painful.
It mirrors the scene where Mrs. Robinson, where is like, you can see Hoffman through her legs. It mirrors the scene because we're behind Mr. Robinson, and it's his way of doing this, of coming at him, and her way of coming at him. Obviously, earlier in the film was kind of a sexy way. His way is like man to man. But I love the same shots.
Yeah, and Murray Hamilton is so sad.
So sad, man. Did I do something personal to you? Yeah. Do you hate me for some reason? It's so great.
Well, and I don't know how you frame, like, in your mind. Yeah. You know, and I don't think Murray Hamilton or Mr. Robinson believes that Ben raped his wife.
No,
I think I think he's known who his wife was for a long time. Right. And you know, you live in denial, and you live in That's
why he has to make him the bad guy. Yeah. Calling him a degenerate as he goes down who's the real degenerate? Someone who tricked a woman into marrying him by getting her pregnant, or who's the degenerate here? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all sliding scales.
We don't get to know who Mr. Robinson is.
We don't.
We get a couple of surface things.
That's a good point. You're right.
You know, and maybe he is just the worst, most inattentive husband he certainly works a lot and they've slept at separate rooms. Maybe he's a nice guy who married this really sad, fucked up person. Right. And has just been struggling to get by.
Well, he left her at the party at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So,
we don't get to know.
Yeah. We don't.
Certainly, I feel sad for him.
Of course.
And I also don't particularly like him.
That's fair. That's fair, yeah.
And then Ben's like, hey, we got to get this thing done fast, but Elaine's gone.
Right.
Now we got to find Elaine.
Right.
Man, he drives up and down the coast of California a lot.
It's
a long drive. I do that drive all the time. Put a lot of miles on that little, is it Alfa Romeo?
Let me ask you something. Are you invested in him finding Elaine? Or are you against him finding Elaine?
No, the movie works.
Yeah, it really does, right? You don't want to be with him, but you can't help but be with him.
Of course, the movie. Yeah. Well, because here's the other thing. Elaine marrying Carl, or whatever his name
Carl
is.
Smith.
That's not going to work out. That's a terrible marriage.
It is a terrible
so,
marriage.
like...
It's her repeating her mom's mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, Ben is going to rescue her on some level.
Yeah.
And the drive of him and the performance of Dustin Hoffman and the music, because now we're hearing the deep-to-dees of Mrs. Robinson.
Great.
Like, I'm in it. And I love the sort of con man, I'm the reverend, and I'm trying to find the church, and they haven't, or I'm the brother, or what all that stuff he's doing. You know,
I think you're also motivated, which is a really great, we haven't touched this real quick, like, Nichols has the scene, or the screenwriter, or Buck Henry, they put that scene in where Mrs. Robinson calls the police because it's a burglar, because Dustin Hoffman is trying to. I think I'm invested when she.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Rejects him in that way and says, "You'll never find her.
Yeah,
you'll never find." There's the challenge of it.
Well,
right?
and she is the evil queen.
Yeah, she kind of is.
So you know,
Maleficent.
Yeah, you're right. She's completely Maleficent at this point, and so Elaine is trapped, and he does have to rescue her.
Right.
The fact that I don't feel good about, like this is not Sleeping Beauty and the Prince or anything. They're not going happily ever after is a different issue.
Well, that's why Into the Woods is such a fantastic musical, because you go behind the facade of those fairy tale characters.
Yeah,
but go ahead. Yeah.
So we're on the last drive-in. This is where they has Paul Simon in the room playing guitar.
Oh, that's great.
And the running out of gas with the guitar.
Idiot.
It is so good. He gets out of his car, and then this is, I teach this in film school, one of the perfect examples of how a long lens works versus a wide angle lens, which is in a wide angle lens, things close are really big, things far are really small. Yeah. And if you walk forward, you're going from being really small to really big. Yeah. And so things, when you move towards camera, things happen really fast.
Yeah.
Long lens does the opposite. Things that are far away, they stay the same size. As he runs towards camera, he doesn't change size. And he seems, they're on like a 700 millimeter lens or something, a really, really long lens. He seems to be running in place.
Yeah.
Even though he is running full speed. And apparently Dustin Hoffman did it so many times he passed out.
Of course. Mr. Method.
Yeah, Mr. Method. He is running full on, and it looks like he's getting nowhere.
Yeah.
That is how a long lens works.
Wow.
And so he runs, he gets to the church. They said they were going to shoot in this church for one day. They shot for like 2 weeks.
Wow. Make that money.
Yeah. He gets up, it goes to the window, and this is one of the most iconic moments in film. Amazing moment. Yelling out Elaine. And here's an interesting thing production-wise. So first he's banging with his fist fairly close to his face.
Yeah.
And the minister there freaks out. It's like, you're going to break the glass.
Shatter the glass.
And so Nichols goes, okay, Dustin, can you find a way to bang but not use so much power? And so Dustin Hoffman holds his arms far apart and bangs in this sort of weird way.
Yeah.
And all the critics, of course, say he's Christ-like.
Yeah.
And it was really just for a practical reason of not wanting to break the glass.
That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're in a church, your arms are wide.
But there's nothing Christ-like about him, for fuck's sake. Yeah,
no. And you have this great, here's an interesting change from the book.
Yeah.
In the book, he gets there before they say man and wife, before they get married.
Wow.
Nichols said, no, he gets there, they're already married. The Charles Webb, the writer of the book, hates that.
I think it works completely.
100%.
Yeah.
And you have these moments where you see but do not hear the yelling of Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Robinson and the husband. And then she, in this weird silent moment, this weird space, she screams.
There's so much in that scream, just like there was so much in that scream in the room.
Exactly.
This is a counter to that scream. It's her way of going, help me, get me out of here. You save me now. You wanted me to save you. You save me
Save
now.
me.
Yeah, equally.
And she runs out, and then we have essentially Ben becomes an action star.
Right.
It fights off the crowd.
Fights off Dad.
Yeah. He punches people.
Yeah.
He grabs a golden
crucifix.
cross. He's swinging it around like a weapon. Gets out of the church, puts the cross in the door, barring off the door, and they run off in this. It is amazing, joyful way. And what do they catch? A bus? They walk onto the bus.
Yeah.
It just happens to pull it up. They sit in the back seat of the bus.
Yeah.
And this is one of the most amazing last shots in film history.
Right.
You can't, it's astounding.
Yeah.
Because the camera keeps rolling.
Yes.
And apparently this is Sam Osteen's on the bus. Nichols isn't on the bus.
Oh, okay.
And he, not really being a director, he says, just forgot to say cut.
Wow.
And so the intention is Nichols says, you're just happy. And that's the ending. But then the camera keeps rolling. Catherine Ross and Dustin Hoffman being method people, they're just in that moment of like, oh, what do we do?
Yeah.
And they see it in dailies and they go, oh my God.
Yes, of course.
That's the end of the movie.
That's the end of the movie.
Because it is unsettling.
Yep.
It is it opens the whole movie up. If they were happy, the movie closes. They live happily ever after.
Yeah.
But because they're confused and thoughtful and what now, you see the what now, and we don't get a what now answer. Now we don't ever get to know.
Right.
What is this movie about?
Well, there was a sequel.
Yeah.
But
what's so funny is like in the player, they're making jokes about doing a sequel.
A graduate sequel,
yeah,
I know.
Yeah. And I never saw it, by the way. Did you?
Rumor has it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw it. It's not a bad movie.
Okay.
And it's not
it's
a bad...
Rob Reiner, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of a sequel, but not 100% a
right.
sequel. What's fantastic about this ending, too, Steve, is it's not 100% they're unhappy either. Like, they're not oh, fuck, what have we done? There's more a matter of like... What do we do now?
Yeah, it's what do we do now?
And they both take turns smiling. That's what's it. They never smile at each other. They both smile out separately and then look at each other at separate moments, but never together. Right. And I think that's fantastic because that shows that she's doing this to get out of her situation with her family, and he's doing this to get out of his situation as well. But who knows what happens here? They could end up happily ever after. She's beautiful. She's supportive. He's got his stuff.
He's got a great degree from Harvard or whatever.
He's going to go be something. So who knows? But they could also be in a terrible loveless marriage and repeating the same patterns. But I don't want to jump over too much. I do want to have this moment. Let's talk real quick where Mrs. Robinson grabs her and says,
"You're right."
Says like.
It's too late. She says it's too late.
And she says, not for me. Elaine says, not for me. And Mrs. Robinson slaps her twice.
Yeah.
Fucking
looks
insane.
hard.
Yeah. What the fuck? It's such a messed up situation. No wonder she's running.
And this is where the thing is, I can't know how to feel.
No.
I can't know. But
I love that we don't.
Yeah, exactly. Because do we want to stay with Mr. and Mrs. Robinson? No.
No, fuck no.
Do we want Elaine to marry Carl? No. Of course not.
Coral.
Do we feel good about Ben and Elaine? And no,
not 100%.
But
it seems the most hopeful option. It seems like.
I hope they heal each other.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Right.
I hope that they go. Okay, we've been through this traumatic thing, and we've learned lessons, and that we're gonna be stronger in the future.
Right.
But I don't know that that's what happens.
Yeah, and this is also the awakening of the flower power of the '60s. All this. It's the awakening of okay, we've done this. Fuck, now what do we do?
Yeah.
Like we caused the revolution, we made these changes. Oh shit, what do we do now? This is what all revolutions almost always fail because they don't have a second step all mapped out, ready to go. Most revolutions fail after they complete the revolution, and they eventually tumble back into where they were before because they don't have a plan for what to do after they win. And this is what happens here in the same situation. It's what they're doing is rebelling against their situations, their own revolutions. But then they're like, "Oh shit, what do we do now?"
Well, this is
so symbolic.
This is why I brought up that Generations book, because in reading that book, my expectation when I started was, I'm like an idealist. I'm going to like the idealists. And what I discovered in reading the book was I really didn't like the idealists because this is what happens is that they have such strong beliefs and such strong rejections of those beliefs that don't agree with them that they are willing to go to war. They're willing to blow up everything. They're willing to destroy other people's lives because they're obsessed with their own ideals.
Right.
And they don't see, because of their cognitive dissonance, the problems with those ideals. And that is exactly what you see. I mean, I grew up in Marin County, went to school in Berkeley. Yeah. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, not in the 60s, but I saw the remnants of this. And I love certain things out of that generation. Right. I really believe in them. And I'm so disgusted by certain excesses of that generation and from exactly what you're talking about. If you look at what happened in the 70s, both the violence and the drug addiction and the, all of those things that came out of that. Right. And it's like, it's all from the arrogance of idealism.
Yeah, the free love spawned STDs, spawned AIDS. There's all kinds of stuff that happened through this whole revolution. Like if you don't curtail it after you achieve it, if you don't have a plan after you achieve it, eventually you destroy things.
Because what we need is a mix of the practical and the ideals.
Absolutely.
Is that we need idealists. We need people who are pointing their finger at the problems in our society and questioning things. Absolutely.
Right.
But we also need someone who makes the trains run on time.
Right.
And, cures the diseases and goes out and does the fucking work because life has a lot of work.
Yep.
And Ben sitting around floating on his raft is not going to make the world work.
Yeah.
I've got these, who makes the rules? And it's like, shut up, man. Like, go do something. Yeah. Even if you want to do idealist things, go do them.
What do they tell you? Work from within to change, right? To change the structure, not sit outside rebelling and crying about it all the time. Work from within and make the change.
Yeah.
You can go, and we're seeing that now as a reaction to Trump. Whatever side you're on, a reaction to Trump getting into office. So many people are motivated now to pursue political life that were like disillusioned with pursuing political life. Now see it as a possibility. In that may be one of the greatest legacies that man ever leaves on this planet, is that he motivated this country, a lot of people in this country, to get back involved in politics and back involved and believing that they can change the direction of this country.
And hopefully in a practical way.
Yes. And a positive way.
And hopefully it will be.
There we go.
So the film has a tremendous reception. Obviously, it's nominated for multiple Oscars.
Yeah.
It doesn't win the Oscar. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner wins the Oscar that year.
Son of a... Of course it does.
Yeah. Well, that is the old Hollywood
nice
movie.
Save, we're all cool. Both races film.
Yeah. So a really great book about this era is called Pictures at a Revolution. It's about the 5 films nominated for the Oscars in 1967 and points to them as this is the moment between old Hollywood and new. And the 5 films are The Graduate.
Yes.
Bonnie and Clyde.
Yes.
In the Heat of the Night. Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And Dr. Dolittle.
Oh.
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner and Dr. Dolittle representing old Hollywood.
Of course.
Bonnie and Clyde and Graduate, definitely New Hollywood, and In the Heat of the Night, somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
And it's a really good book. I put it up there. It might even, I think, be a better book than Easy Riders, Raging Bulls. It's a really, really good book.
I love Easy Riders, Raging Bulls.
And really gives you a lot of detail about The Graduate and the filmmaking and this time. So definitely worth checking out.
Yep.
And I think this movie, in addition, it was the biggest movie of the year.
Yeah.
And it is what created the youth art movement.
Yeah.
Because but previous to this time,
Yeah.
the people that went to movies were grown-ups.
Yeah.
And that what happened with this movie was they went, oh, our big market is actually, if we can get the young people, they'll go see movies over and over again. And that has not changed since. That is the main market that Hollywood is aiming towards. And I really believe it starts with The Graduate.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and fascinatingly enough, Hoffman goes home, goes back to riding the subway, waiting in unemployment lines, because he doesn't know what his next gig is going to come from. Finally, some reporters take pictures of him waiting in the unemployment line. He realizes he can't do that anymore. He's not going to ride the subway anymore. And he becomes a massive sex symbol.
Wow.
You know, like
Dustin Hoffman
does. And obviously, this is the beginning of one of the great acting careers of all time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Final thoughts on The Graduate.
What a fantastic film to rediscover again. I'm glad we talked about it on the Cine-Files, and I absolutely love this film. Can't recommend it more. Like I've said numerous times for other films that we've done here on the show, it affects you in different ways depending on what time in your life you're watching the film. And this time around, it really hit me on so many levels that I had not had it do the previous 2 or 3 times I'd seen it. It's an acting tour de force by everybody in this film. It's a fantastic script. There's not a wasted scene in this whole movie. Everything feeds to the overall point of the film, and that ending is everything. It's just everything. Ambiguous endings were the amazing part of the late 60s and 70s filmmaking, which rarely happens now, but it's one of the things I absolutely love. And I think this film serves as a testament to what can happen when you grab on to what's going on in the cultural zeitgeist and really hit it out of the park. It still applies universally, even 50 years later. 50 years later.
Yeah. For me, I can't think of a movie that is simultaneously as uncomfortable, dark, sad, moving, and funny, and kind of filled with ideas as this one. I can't think of one because it is 100% funny, full comedy, with all the comedy chops of Mike Nichols from Nichols and May, and all the comedy chops of Dustin Hoffman and Anne Bancroft, and all these people are really funny. And then in the next moment, just crushingly difficult and sad and challenging. I can't think of a movie that does this like this. And in terms of all the filmmaking, the craft is great. As you say, the performance is great. The music is great.
The music is great.
Yeah, I think you all need to listen to more Simon and Garfunkel.
Absolutely.
And I don't know. It just hit me really, just like you. It hit me really hard.
Can I say one last thing?
Of course.
Unless are you done?
No, I'm done.
Okay. I also think this film forces you to accept the complexity of human beings.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Right? We should say this because Mrs. Robinson is alternately sympathetic and destructive. Sympathetic and a villain. Ben the same way. Catherine Ross not so much maybe.
Well, but she's like you keep going like, why are you doing this?
Yes,
you know
right.
what
She's
are
frustrating
her
in that way.
motivations?
Exactly.
Like, you know, she's complicated too.
Exactly, complicated. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Complicated.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Robinson, like, who's this guy?
Yep.
You know, and and what we see is, I'm so glad you said that, because what you see is the difference between the facade that all these people are putting forward and all the stuff that apparently is just below the surface.
Yep.
You know,
that's amazing,
and that is unknowable, and we cannot understand Mrs. Robinson. We cannot understand Ben. We can't really understand Elaine.
Yeah,
you know, they're just doing what they're doing, and you go like,
yeah,
and the ending points to that. We don't. Yeah. We're never going to get to know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think about The Graduate. Of course, we always want to hear what you think. Please visit us on Facebook. That's at the Cine-Files, CINE-FILES. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Leave a review for us on iTunes. We would love to hear what you think. It really, not only do we enjoy getting the reviews, not only does it help to raise us up in the iTunes stats, but it helps us to make the show better because we get to see what you're thinking. Absolutely. And we also want to see what you're thinking on our YouTube page, because the great thing about YouTube is that we can see your comments on each episode.
Yeah.
And exactly what you're talking about. We love engaging with you there. We love going back and forth with you on Twitter. You can reach me at SR Morris. John, where can they reach you?
You guys can always reach me at The Rocha Says, ROCHA, on Twitter and on Instagram. Every Friday is on Collider Movie Talk, and of course this show, and some more announcements coming out. Outlaw Nation coming out soon on the Schmoes
Can't wait for Outlaw Nation.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so that's it for this week. We will see you next time on the Cine-Files.